On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we celebrate the most wonderful time of the year. That's right, it's CHUCKMAS! And today we're talking about Individual Thought Patterns by Death.
1993.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Medalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
And why don't you join us round the fire?
You should have a fire sound effect going right here, like a little crackling log.
Oh, then I'll have to go find one.
Yeah, that's work.
But join us around the fire, metaphorically speaking, as we discuss life and all its weird happenings and also individual thought patterns by death. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it is CHUCKMAS.
And Death Metal December, therefore.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, absolutely. And as is my tradition, as is the tradition, Chuck brought you a present from beyond the grave.
Aw, says
you already.
I started opening it.
You started opening it like a terrible impatient child. The second you got here,
it is awesome. Ooh, Sony.
So, Bluetooth headphones.
Sweet, thank you, Chuck.
Since Chuck heard that yours were falling apart.
Yes, they are. They have now two pieces of electrical tape on them, and the electrical tape is not holding.
So those should serve you well.
These are good ones.
Chuck read some reviews, and people seemed fairly happy with them. So
nice. Well, thank you, Chuck.
Hopefully those are to your liking.
35 hours. Really?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I don't know if they take like AAAs or something, or if you can plug them in or anything like that.
Hopefully they have like a charger
in there.
Cord.
I guess I didn't check that part specifically.
Yeah, USB.
Oh, USB. Okay. I saw 35 hours. Like, cool.
That is
cool. Chuck saw 35 hours and was like, cool. Yes, because Chuck Schuldiner spoke like that all the time. It's weird because his speaking voice stayed gritty, but over the course of the 90s got progressively more higher pitched.
Yeah, as far as singing goes,
yeah. It's weird. People noted that in his personal life, just like Chuck's voice has been getting higher. It's not that he's changing his style while on stage. It's just that's his natural speaking voice. He's always doing a scream or whatever, but it's just getting higher pitched.
You know, I noticed that there were some bands. I won't say who they were, but I've been to a thrash metal show, which I did a lot in the the late 80s, mostly early 90s.
Back in the day,
and you'd hear them this gruff, loud, up on stage.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks, everybody.
thanks. All right, for our next song, we're gonna.
Hello.
From what I can recall of hearing Chuck Schuldiner speak in like interviews and stuff like that, is that he had not a super high pitch, but a relatively high pitched and fairly nasally voice.
Kind of. And it was very soft.
He was a very soft spoken kind of guy.
And he loved kitties and puppies.
He loved little animals and making very, very good death metal, and also other kinds of metal in the later period of his career.
Progressive metal.
I still haven't really given Control Denied a try. I should.
It's actually very good.
I should.
He doesn't necessarily have the best like singing voice, but it was actually better than you might think it would be.
Certainly better than probably some other people who had only ever done progressive metal.
Yeah, or death metal.
Yeah. But it's I guess I would have to listen to truly know, but I can imagine, there's definitely some bands that I've heard where it's just like, you're really trying, but there's not a lot of there's not a lot of natural
talent or ability.
Natural ability there. You're really pushing for this and this is not sustainable. But if you can sing in a manner that is sustainable and relatively comfortable for you, even if it isn't the most like the fanciest or most artful or most show-offy sort of vocal performance, as long as you're consistent, then I'm happy with that and I'm satisfied. But how are you this week?
I'm doing fine. I'm
doing fine.
I'm doing fine.
You watched Spider-Man last
I watched
night?
Spider-Man. Yeah. The 10-year-old and I went to go see Spider-Man No Way Home. Really, really enjoyed it.
Spider-Man.
So because I'd heard my 15-year-old went to go see it with their friend.
Yes.
And came back and said, yeah, I cried. And I'm like, oh, really? And so I'm watching for it. I'm sitting in the theater. And
what's going to make me cry?
What's going to make me cry? And there was a scene that was like incredibly sad. I bet they cried right here. That's possible. Well, I know, I'm making it through fine. It's fine. Whatever. And the kid. So
I'm a big boy. We'll be fine.
And then another thing happened that was very emotional. I'm like, oh, it might have been here as well. Yeah, well, now I can understand why if it was here that they cried. And then another thing happened. It was a very brief, very short shot that happened. And I'm like,
that's what got you. That's how they get you.
Yeah.
That's how they fake you out a couple of times. And then they're like, here's this one little thing that's only going to affect you personally.
Yeah.
It's the kids. The kids aren't going to get it, but you're going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
That's happened to me with certain movies where it's like, maybe the big emotional climax is not necessarily what gets me, but there's like a little moment.
Yeah.
Just the tiniest little moment. That's what gets me there.
Mm-hmm.
But like I always think of, and I guess there's plenty of big moments involved in this, but the last hour of Return of the King, which is really like it feels like the last hour of Return of the King is all after the ring's been fucking destroyed.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Elvis for a moment, but yeah. You talking about the 68 special that when he just come back?
Elvis. Yeah. No, the last hour of Return of the King gets me so many different times.
Sure.
Or it's like I think the first time is I'm happy to be with you, Samwise Gamgee, here at the end of all things. That makes me cry.
Sure.
And then of course, you bow to no one gets me real bad. And then, of course, Frodo leaving at the Grey Havens gets me. And then, 60 seconds later, after Sam arrives home, and it's like, it's over. Then fucking Annie Lennox starts singing. And then the waterworks.
Glass, or is it?
No. She starts Sweet Dreams Are Made. Yeah. She starts singing one of those. One of her radio hits. No, it's Into the West.
Right.
And that gets me like all that starts the waterworks all over again. It's like the last 60 minutes of Return of the King. I am a slobbering mess. I'm just an absolute emotional wreck.
That's what I'm going to fucking do this weekend.
You're going to watch Lord of the Rings?
I'm going to do that.
You're going to do you have access to the extended editions?
No, I have the regular. I can watch the regular ones.
I can loan you my
your Blu-ray
editions.
Extended?
Yeah, I can loan you them. I'm
All
not
right.
going to watch them this weekend.
All right.
Although now that you've mentioned that's a thing I could do, now I'm like, I kind of want to do that, but I don't need to. So
I'm going to be all alone for Christmas. I'm going to be by myself. They're leaving, I think, Thursday night, and they're coming back on Tuesday.
Canada.
Yeah, they're going to Canada, and so I'm going to be at home. I got some projects, some stuff I got to do.
Yeah,
some things. So it's going to be good. It's some alone time. I'll talk to them on the phone. We'll probably FaceTime them.
So hey,
but I'll be here.
I could give you, or the other thing that you could do with your weekend too.
What's that?
Because it's only 14 hours for the extended editions. Yeah. The other thing you could do is you could watch fucking Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah, I could finish watching fucking Twin Peaks.
Your CHUCKMAS gift from
2 years ago. Was it 3 years ago?
I don't think it was actually a CHUCKMAS gift. I think I got you that for your birthday.
Oh, maybe.
That might have been I almost said girth day.
Oh, no.
No.
We in no way celebrate girth day.
If you celebrate girth day, we got no problems with it.
We no judge.
You do you.
Yeah. You want to celebrate girth day.
But not for us. No.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking stupid. But yeah, no, you could. I can loan you those, and you can also watch Twin Peaks.
Right,
as well.
I can watch all of it. I have time for it.
So you especially have time for it. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you have time for season 3, because season 3 is, remember, it's 18 episodes. Mm-hmm. Most of them, some of them are over an hour.
Okay.
Some of them are shorter.
Right.
So they were whatever length David Lynch decided they needed to be.
Because it didn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter. They're on Showtime,
Right.
and David Lynch was given pretty much complete creative control, carte blanche over the whole thing. Just say, hey, I'm doing this. This episode's going to be 30 minutes, and the next one's going to be an hour and a half.
You know, that reminds me. I actually did a search. This was a weird thing to find. Famous people who have lived in or were born in Missoula, Montana.
Okay. Including, David Lynch.
It's a weirdly long list of people.
Okay, what are some of the other people?
You know, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but there's some, you just wouldn't expect that person lived in Missoula for a while.
I can pop open Missoula's Wikipedia page, and usually they have a notable residence.
Sure. And they do. That's what this was from.
Okay, so I can pop it open. I mean, first we know David Lynch is from.
We know David Lynch. We know internet famous Hank Green lives there.
Oh, he lives in
there.
Missoula, Montana.
He works at the university or whatever.
Okay, let's see. Notable people. We have. Let's see here. Missoula has produced and been a home to a number of notable individuals. Mm-hmm. Jeanette Rankin, the first woman in Congress, was born and raised in Missoula. Mm-hmm. Senators Mike Mansfield, the U.S.'s longest-serving Senate Majority Leader, and Max Baucus, Montana's longest-serving U.S. Senator. Okay. So there's athletes, actors, and filmmakers. Dana Carvey.
Dana Carvey is from Missoula.
David Lynch.
Yeah.
Award. Okay, this is maybe not specifically actors, but there's award-winning biologist Leroy Hood, Carol O'Connor,
yeah.
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons attended the University of Montana, Missoula. Let's see.
You know who Carol O'Connor is, right?
No, I don't.
It was Archie Bunker. You ever heard of?
I am aware.
You're aware of that
Archie
show?
Bunker.
Okay, yeah.
A musician, vlogger, author, Hank Green. Let's see. Who else? People in literature. Native American poet James Welch. Novelist James Crumley. Another writer, Richard Hugo. That's
Dana Carvey, J.K. Simmons, Carol O'Connor, all these people
coming to Missoula.
From Missoula. All right.
Why not? It's a beautiful town in the mountains.
Yeah, there's only one way in and one way out. Well, I guess there's two ways in. There's one road that goes this way and another road that goes this way.
The other way.
Other's it's inaccessible.
You can go through it.
Yeah, you can go through it.
In fact, I think you need to go through it if you're, if you want to travel through the mountains.
Right.
Is it on like Highway 2? Because Highway 2, I think, runs all the way, technically speaking, all the way to...
the road we're on?
Yeah.
Highway 2?
I think US Highway 2 actually goes all the way to fucking Seattle or some shit.
Maybe.
Or Spokane.
I'm trying to remember how we went. Me and a friend went back in the early 90s. We drove through Montana.
Which,
by the way, the going from here to west, the first,
8 hours.
Half of Montana is the most boring fucking thing I've ever seen.
You haven't seen? Have you seen Eastern Wyoming?
Also, it's also pretty boring. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's far more boring than because the thing that I do not find Eastern Montana boring because it's just more North Dakota.
Oh, sure, I suppose
that's where I've been my entire life. The eastern half of Montana is just more North Dakota. That's all it is. I have no problem with that. And then it turns into beautiful, wonderful mountains. It's gorgeous. Eastern Wyoming is a desolate, barren wasteland that I do not think is fit for human habitation. Not necessarily because the climate is inhospitable or anything like that, but simply because it's so fucking depressing. I guess I haven't seen it in summertime. Maybe it looks better in summertime. But it's just nothing but fucking scrub brush and pronghorns as far as the eye can fucking see. There's no actual grass. It's all bushes and scrub brush.
Scrub brush.
I'm so angry about Eastern Wyoming that I cannot speak anymore.
You can't say the word brush.
It's bad.
Central Nevada is pretty bad as well.
Yeah. But at least that's this, desert and shit.
Yeah.
That's, it's better. There's features. Like when you look at Nevada from like space, the entire state is sort of like a weird inverted moonscape where instead of craters, it's like lone rocky outcroppings and mountains and stuff.
Yeah, I suppose there is that. Yeah.
Like the whole state is just like here's a little mountain, here's a little mountain, here's a little mountain, here's a little mountain.
Something to look at, I guess.
Yeah, it's there. It breaks up. It's not flat. It's not one giant like it is the Great Basin technically, but it is not like it's not Death Valley all the way.
Death Valley's fun to drive through.
The size of it, Death Valley, the size of an entire state would be insane. Driving
through Death Valley in the summer is fantastic, especially back when I was a kid and we had a shitty car. We had a 75 Pinto, and we're driving through Death Valley, and I'm going. It's like shaking the dice every moment because you're like, oh, when's she gonna blow up? When's she gonna overheat?
When are we gonna be stranded out here in the middle of one of the most inhospitable places on the continent?
It's 120 degrees.
Yep. I have to imagine on a particularly cloudy day, Death Valley probably looks a little bit like what I imagine the surface of Venus looks like. Just clouds overhead, nothing but barren rock as far as the eye can see.
And those damn Venusians.
Yeah. They're wandering around and being really flat because the atmospheric pressure is so high.
Well, sure.
It squishes them down.
They don't have soft bodies. They've adapted to the atmospheric pressure and the gravity.
They're made of Venus. They're made of
sterner stuff. Yes.
Sterner stuff. Okay. All right. I understand.
See, here on Earth, they would expand quite a bit.
Yeah. It's like a blobfish.
Right.
You ever seen a picture of a blobfish?
Yeah. You see them in the water. They're great. When you see them on land, they're ugly.
Well, when they're at their preferred depth, they just look like a normal kind of spiny fish.
Right.
And then you pull them up, to the surface level, and they go,
right,
because they can't hold their bodies together
because there's no pressure.
And they look really silly. Anyway.
So that's what people from Venus are like.
That's what people from Venus are like, a blobfish. You heard it here first, folks. If we ever discover life on Venus, that's what it's going to look like. I'm making the prediction now. We're locking it in. And
they're not just four-armed purple pig people.
Is that from something?
Futurama. Yeah.
Okay. You were saying things and it wasn't clocking. I presumed you were making some sort of a reference and that you would eventually reveal it. But you didn't until just now.
Well, no, I didn't start that until just that moment.
All right.
We were just riffing before.
We were just riffing. All right.
Yeah.
This is comedy. This is pure comedy.
Because we make us laugh.
Yeah. We did it just now.
Yeah.
You made me laugh. What have I been up to? I was thinking about my life.
Yeah.
I haven't really been doing much of anything. So I've been streaming some Halo Infinite campaign stuff.
Sure.
On Twitch. Just because I wanted to replay it again, and if people wanted to, if my friends wanted to watch it, they could watch it. I think after I'm done with that, I'm going to do something that's probably not super advisable for my mental health, which is I'm going to play through probably the entire Dark Souls series for the first time ever.
Right.
And it's going to be a relatively blind run. I might look things up on my own, but I'm, for anyone who will watch it, it's like, please, if you know better than me, don't say anything.
He's going in blind.
Because I don't want people to basically yell at me and tell me that I'm doing the wrong thing the entire time. So there is a specific tag on Twitch that says no backseating. So that will be up on there. Just because it's like, yeah, I know I'm probably doing it wrong, but I want to do it the way I want to do it. So
you want the experience.
Fuck off.
Exactly.
fuck off.
So what you should do in between runs through Dark Souls, you should take a break and watch movies like Requiem for a Dream, Schindler's List,
a fantastic documentary, Dear Zachary.
Yes, watch that. Absolutely.
Just movies that are really, really good for your mental health. Mm-hmm. Movies that don't, that are just relaxing, that don't distress you at all. Come and See. I should watch that.
Vanilla Sky.
Have you ever heard of Come and See?
I haven't. No.
I can't remember if it's Russian or if it's like Belarusian or what it is, but it's from the 70s or 80s. I want to say it was made in the Eastern Bloc. Right. But the movie is about a young a teenager in World War II who decides to join essentially like the SS folk, because part of what the SS primarily did in World War II, other than all the awful war crimes, is that they were, they would recruit anybody from any country, essentially. Sure. Because they were a paramilitary organization. They were not actually part of the German army. So people from many different countries that the Nazis were occupying joined the SS. And this kid joins up and goes through, I think maybe he joins a either Red Army or a resistance group. It's one or the other. I can't remember. But in any case, a bunch of really, 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 really horrific shit happens to him.
Oh, geez.
And it's apparently one of the most incredibly depressing and nightmarish war movies ever made. And it was restored somewhat recently.
Oh, so it's an older movie.
Yeah, it was. It's again 70s or 80s.
Oh, 70s or 80s.
And it was made in somewhere in the Eastern Bloc. I can't remember what country.
Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio. Everybody knows
during the German occupation.
Those damn Ohioans were commies all along. Everybody's aware of that.
Do you remember the SS occupied Toledo?
Yes.
Yes.
But in any case, that's apparently it's a movie that I'm interested in watching at some point. But I'm sure it will be one of those experiences that I'm done with and go, all right, I don't need to see that again.
Right.
But honestly, a lot of the movies that I have seen like that, where I got done and went, I don't need to watch that again.
You've watched it again.
I have watched again.
I'm the same. I do the same thing. I thought, well, that was draining. That probably cut a week off of my life. About a week later, I want to watch it again.
Yeah. Well, because a lot of times they're also really good movies.
Yeah.
That you want to absorb more out of and dig into a little bit.
Sure.
Instead of just focusing on the more apparent horrific sadness. Sure. You now get to look in for the deeper horrific sadness in movies or documentaries like that.
There was a lot of subtle stuff in there that you didn't know to be angry about.
Just as depressing.
Yeah.
But you know what's not depressing?
Death.
The band.
The band Death. Yeah.
The band Death. So this is our fourth CHUCKMAS.
This is our fourth CHUCKMAS.
And if you've not been with us for a CHUCKMAS before, during Death Metal December, the Wednesday that is closest to December 25th, we celebrate as CHUCKMAS, and we listen to an album made by the death metal band Death, which is arguably the first death metal band. Whether or not Possessed has that title is a matter of some debate, but Chuck Schuldiner is widely considered to be the father of death metal, more or less. Yes. And so we celebrate CHUCKMAS. And if you also don't know anything about Chuck Schuldiner, he passed away in 2001 after or was it 2003? He passed away in the early 2000s. He had a brain tumor. But he made a lot of really, really fantastic metal that absolutely changed the metal world.
It did.
And so it's only fitting that in Death Metal December, we talk about some death. So this year we talked about Individual Thought Patterns, an album from 1993.
Yes.
And
their fifth album.
It is the fifth studio album from Death. And what was your experience before this last week with Individual Thought Patterns.
You know, I hadn't listened to it in a long time. I have it on CD somewhere. I mean, I bought it like in 1993 on CD, and it is in my CD collection. And I really love this album. I thought this was really good. One thing that sort of almost was a detriment for this album was the amount of talent on it.
Yeah.
I thought there's just too fucking much talent on that. I mean,
you've got, so in addition to Chuck Schuldiner, who's songwriter and rhythm guitarist
and vocalist,
you have on the drums Gene fucking Hoglan. Who is widely known as the human drum machine.
Yeah,
He's
the Atomic Clock.
The Atomic Clock. He's an extremely talented drummer who's primarily known for the insane amount of precision that he is able to pull off, in addition to playing very, very fast.
Very, very accurate. Yeah.
Doing both is not the easiest thing in the world. Playing both fast and accurately is not particularly easy.
You know, it's funny with Gene, you'll see other drummers maybe do this, but you see them having weights on their arms and legs when they play, to strengthen their playing.
Yes.
When they practice, he does it on stage sometimes.
Yeah. Because otherwise he would play too fast.
Right.
He needs them to slow him to slow him down.
Yeah.
He needs that extra weight there. I remember, I think one of the drummer for a deathcore band called Despised Icon tends to play with like heavy sticks, because they make, instead of like ankle or wrist weights or whatever, they also make like really heavy training sticks. Essentially.
Yeah, like JoJo's, I think.
And he plays with those, which. Also, the dude is fucking jacked as hell. Like he is very, very jacked. So it's probably not much of a challenge for him.
I have a friend named Bobby who has some closely guarded anger issues, or at least he did at the time. He had those really heavy duty JoJo sticks that he kept a bucket. He kept a food grade bucket full of these goddamn sticks right next to him. And you would see during the shows, you see occasionally like some debris flying up this way, and Bobby going,
grab another stick. Instead of the guitarist throwing out guitar picks into the crowd, is the crowd trying to catch shards of the drumstick.
Or they're trying to dodge it.
Or trying to keep it from going into their eye. Please if you're in the front, third of this venue, please wear these safety glasses. Thank you.
Welcome to Woodshop.
This is so we don't get sued. But I remember seeing a video of that drummer from Despised Icon, who was like he was filming a practice session or whatever that he was playing in his garage or wherever he was at. But he apparently was in a pretty bad mood. He messed something up and threw one of his drumsticks across the room, and you can hear glass shattering.
Oh, jeez.
And then he gets up, and you can clearly tell he went from that very dude thing where you go from being like super fucking angry and pissed and going, oh fuck. And like, where with some people, that would only make you even more angry and just heighten your rage. For some other people, it's like
it's deflating.
You were really in it, and then there was actually consequences to your poor management of your own emotions, and that brings you out of it. And it's like, oh god damn it. Why am I like this? Why am I like this? I think that is very much the type of person that I am, where it's like, if something makes me really angry, it just keeps building until there's actually like some sort of consequence of some form. Then it's like, oh, why did you do that? Stop it. What's wrong with you? Which I guess is better than, getting really, really angry, something bad happening, and then, admitting no fault whatsoever.
Right.
But
those are called psychopaths.
Yeah, those are bad people.
So that's the drummer.
Yeah, that's not that's not Gene Hoglan.
That's not Gene
by the
Hoglan.
way.
No, that's
he seems like a fairly level-headed kind of
he
guy.
does.
This is the second to last album. This was the first album to feature Gene Hoglan, and this was the second to last album to feature Steve DiGiorgio on bass. And one thing that I love about the mix of this album is that the bass is so front.
Right.
The bass is very, very present in the mix. You can hear it very clearly, and it's fantastic.
And you can anytime I listen to like Sadus or this album or what was the one after this? It was
After this was Symbolic.
Right. Symbolic. And that's the last album to feature Steve DiGiorgio.
Yes.
But it's definitely Steve DiGiorgio. He plays a fretless bass.
Yep. If the bass is audible, you can pretty much immediately identify a fretless bass.
Yeah.
They have a very distinctive sound.
And even specifically Steve. I even know when it's him.
You know when it's, this must have been Steve DiGiorgio.
Yes, indeed.
Popping in for a studio recording. But yeah, he's a fantastic bass player.
Right.
And it's part of what, I mean, he was on, what album did he come in for Death?
Is
that?
I think it might have been Human.
I want to say it might have been Spirit. It was either Human or Spiritual Healing.
It might have been. It must have been Human because Terry Butler was on Spiritual Healing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So yeah, he did 3 albums with Death, and I think the mix on those is fantastic for bass players in general. Who, bass players in the. When did And Justice for All come out?
It was at 88.
Okay, that was the late 80s. Never, but you're in a period of metal where bass players maybe didn't get as much respect as they deserved.
I think that was a very specific.
That was a very Metallica thing.
That was very them.
That's true.
Lars going up. Don't put his fucking bass in the mix. Really? Okay.
All right, whatever.
It's going to sound weird.
It's going to sound very weird. People are going to complain about it for the rest of forever because you're Metallica.
Yeah.
It's like at that point, it's like, your albums are a big deal. You're Metallica. You're already Metallica.
You know this.
You're not just the little band from California anymore. You're a big fucking deal.
Right.
This is going to be a mark on your guys' record forever.
In fact, I remember when they came here, they played at the Minot City Auditorium.
And I was there. The story when you ran into Jason Newsted, right? Or you saw him somewhere?
Yeah, I saw him coming out of the hotel next to Hardee's.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And then I went into Hardee's and James and Lars were in the airport transport van talking to somebody about something. And then I went in and Kirk was having an orange juice and a Danish. And my mom's like, go get their autograph. I'm like, I don't fucking bother them. They're living their lives. Yeah.
This is one of the moments where they don't necessarily expect to be around people who know who they are.
Yeah.
They're in fucking Minot, North Dakota.
I mean, I kind of regret it now, but
yeah, well.
But also in the audience, I do recall looking up on stage at Jason to see if he was plugged in.
Was he?
He was plugged in, yes.
Okay, that's good.
He was. And in fact, he was more, now that I think, more audible in a live setting than he was.
That's one of the things that I liked about Warped Tour, by the way, was just like walking around the festival and just like, oh, there's that guy from that band. There's that guy from that band.
Right.
Then they're just walking around, going from place to place or like going to their merch tent or whatever. It's like my first year at Warped Tour. I went to an Every Time I Die show before I even really liked Every Time I Die.
Did that change? Did that give you an opinion of them?
Not the best opinion because the sound mix that year was not particularly good.
Well, that's a bummer.
The next time I saw ETID at Warped Tour, the mix was fantastic. But that year I don't remember it being particularly good. I don't think I was standing in the best place to truly take it in. This was also like the first time that I ever went to any sort of like loud, fast music concert of any kind whatsoever was Warped Tour 2014.
Sure.
But after that show, Jordan, who I had, my buddy Mason and I had run into earlier that day, and my buddy Mason, almost every year preceding that ETID was there, that he had gone, Mason had gotten a high five from Jordan just incidentally, not searching Jordan out, just like, oh, there's Jordan, post it up,
high five,
because you'd always run into Jordan walking around.
Sure.
Because he was always like, sometimes he would be like selling merch out of a fucking shopping trolley and shit. But that year,
on the side.
Jordan jumped off stage, and I don't know if this is something he did at every show, but he did a stage dive, and people carried him, like a group of 10 people carried him to their merch booth, which was not particularly far away, but also wasn't right next to the stage. So like 10 people just carried Jordan Buckley all the way over to their merch tent.
It was at the end of the show, right?
Yes, it was at the end of no, it was the middle of the show.
Can you stop this? We want shirts.
Jordan just unplugged, left Andy and Keith there. just went off and did his own thing.
Sure.
But no, I miss that. A buddy of mine sent me a Facebook message today that there's because he lives in Colorado now, and there's a Wonder Years show in Denver on February 16th. But he was like, oh, do you want to fly to Denver to go to this? And I was like, I mean, I don't know. And then I looked at tickets from Minot to Denver for the day before the show are a round trip. $380 was the cheapest, which that makes you go, that makes me go, ugh.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know what to expect for, tickets.
That sounds about right. I mean, it actually sounds pretty good.
It's a little bit cheaper from Bismarck, but it's like,
not much.
Yeah, the tickets to the Wonder Years show are like $30, which is great. That's fantastic.
Denver's a hub. For what is the airline? I'm forgetting.
Northwest?
No.
Southwest?
No.
United Airlines. American Airlines.
Not Frontiers.
Spirit.
No. What are the airlines that fly out of Minot? There's only like two.
I mean, Frontier's probably one of them.
There's Allegiant and
I don't know. I know Vegas is a major Allegiant hub. That's
that's why it's like $150 to fly from here to Vegas.
Yeah, that's my experience with like cheap airline tickets is like from Bismarck or Minot to Vegas is like a dime.
Your seat is on the wing and you can't bring shit with you.
But hey, you're only in Vegas for 3 days. What do you need?
Exactly.
All you need is a credit card. One pair of clothes, credit card. That's all you need.
Maybe don't bring the phone.
Don't even bring your phone.
No,
Don't let anybody know where you are. But I don't know what airline it is. But I was looking at tickets and I was just like, for me, paying, for a trip to go to
Frontier,
a concert,
and United,
when the concert is $30,
sure,
for the tickets, for the actual travel cost to be 10 times more than the cost of the ticket. Something about that doesn't sit right with me. But
it's
then
only
again,
a 12-hour drive.
Yeah, only a 12-hour drive.
I've done it
in February to Colorado in February.
Pussy.
Yes,
I've done it several. My parents used to live in Colorado Springs.
Okay,
so I used to do hey, I want you to come home for whatever. Okay,
I'm not particularly comfortable with the idea of me driving by myself. I mean, I'm fine with driving by myself a fair distance,
right?
But a 12-hour trip to Colorado all alone. I don't know if I want to do that.
It is kind of terrifying when you're in the middle of nowhere and you wake up because you're fishtailing at 75 miles an hour.
Yeah, I don't want that to be my...
God damn it.
I don't want that to be my experience. Right. I've only been to Denver once, and I was 13 or 14 at the time and with my parents, so I don't really remember anything about the town.
Sure.
I would have a friend to meet once I got there, but... the entire time up till that point, I would be by myself.
Right. And it's a fairly high elevation there.
Yes.
It's somewhere around is it a mile?
I think it might be. No, I think it's more like I think it's like a half mile. I think that's what they call themselves.
A half-mile high city?
A half-mile high city.
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds correct.
I've seen 2 different metal concerts in
Denver. What would you go see?
I saw Megadeth Suicidal.
Okay.
And I also saw that Metallica show at Mile High Stadium with Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park. And
that's a interesting lineup.
It was.
But I mean, it's a lineup of all 3 very popular bands.
Right.
Of 2 very distinct genres. Mm-hmm. One being thrash metal, the other 2 being nu metal. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what about death metal? What about death? What about metal made by death?
Right, because we were talking about Steve DiGiorgio. That's how we got to Denver.
Yes. So the other band members include
Andy LaRocque.
Andy LaRocque. Yeah. What else is Andy LaRocque known for?
King Diamond. He's mostly known for playing for King Diamond. And King Diamond has a new album this year with Andy LaRocque on it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Interesting thing about the story of Andy LaRocque in this album is that supposedly the way that this was recorded is that Chuck Schuldiner only wanted Andy LaRocque to play the solos. That is it.
He sent him snippets.
So he sent him snippets of where he wanted the solos to go. And that's what Andy had to work on. And supposedly everybody else in the band thought that Andy completely improvised all of his solos and were super impressed by them. Andy himself has downplayed it a little bit and is like, no, I worked on them a bit before. It's like I had several
versions. Yeah.
I had several versions in mind going into the studio. I didn't fully improvise the whole thing, but very, very talented guitarist.
Very Swedish. From Gothenburg.
And then we have on production, we have Scott Burns, who's known for producing. If you have a favorite death metal album from the late 80s and early 90s, he probably produced it.
In Florida at Tampa.
Because he was if you were an American death metal band, he was your guy. Right. He knew how to produce a death metal album at a time when not a lot of other people in the United States did. He was the guy to go to. Cannibal Corpse and Obituary, so many other bands. He is even a couple Sepultura albums, which not a death metal band, so to speak. Their early stuff is closer, but the couple Sepultura albums that he produced and so on and so forth. Very prolific producer throughout the 90s.
That more sound.
Today he is, I don't know if he's retired, because I imagine he's not the youngest person in the world, but
because all that shit was 30 years ago.
Is a computer engineer, or moved on to be a computer engineer, was done with music production.
Well, he does those documentaries about national parks and shit, doesn't he?
Yes, Scott Burns. I love tuning in to PBS to watch reruns of Scott Burns' The Civil War with narrations from Morgan Freeman.
Right.
The other people that contributed to. Peter Coyote.
Sure.
Is
it Coyote or Coyote?
I don't know how he pronounces his last name. I mean, the animal, either way. Sure. It depends on what part of the country you're from.
Right.
But
if you're a Native American, it's definitely Coyote.
Yeah. But I don't know. I do not know how his last name is meant to be pronounced.
If you got a rack full of pelts, they're probably coyotes.
Yes. You probably call them coyotes, but I call them coyotes.
Sure.
I don't know why. I always have. It's just the way I say it. It's just the way I say it. And that's the wonderful thing about language. Is sometimes two people, they say the same word different ways.
If I ever do go back to college, that's what I will study is linguistics.
Language.
Yeah.
Linguistics. It's a fascinating subject.
Yep.
I find it incredibly fascinating. You know who else thought language was very fascinating?
Chuck Schuldiner?
Maybe. I was going to say J.R.R. Tolkien.
Well, yeah, he invented several languages.
Yes. But anyhow, what was it?
I have one of them right here on my keychain.
Yeah. Somebody, there was some paper that he wrote.
Yeah.
And he spelled something wrong or something to that effect, and somebody gave him a note back that was just like Mr. Tolkien or Dr. Tolkien or Professor Tolkien or however they addressed him. According to the dictionary, you have spelled this word wrong, and he went, "I wrote the dictionary," and he did.
Yeah.
That the edition of the dictionary they were citing was one that he had written.
Was it like the Oxford or was it?
I think it was the Oxford. I think it was the Oxford because that's where he worked.
Right.
I wrote the fucking dictionary. Leave me alone. I get to spell it however I goddamn please.
It's fucking dwarves.
It's dwarves with a V-E, not an F.
Because I say so.
V-E-S, dwarves, not dwarfs.
Yeah. It's like halves.
Yes. Well, that was the argument that he had with his publishers. It's just like, It should be dwarves. But that's not how it's spelled in the dictionary. I wrote the dictionary. I'm a goddamn language professor. Anyway.
I saw a mock conversation between Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, where Tolkien is going, "Why are you mixing all of these mythologies?
Yes.
What are you? Is this a Jesus thing?"
Well, the one that I've seen for that is like somebody quoting, like paraphrasing Tolkien, talking about how much he despised allegory in stories.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I want the message and the themes of my story to stand on their own. I don't want anybody to think that it is a one-to-one allegory for a real situation in the real world. And it was him very angrily saying that. It's like, and if you say again that my story is an allegory, I will have you thrown in jail. And then it was a picture of C.S. Lewis going, if even one person doesn't get that the lion is Jesus, I'm going to fucking kill myself. And the funny thing is that part of the what drove C.S. Lewis and Tolkien apart, because they were good friends, is that C.S. Lewis for a very long time was an atheist, and Tolkien had been subtly trying to convince him for years and years and years to convert. C.S. Lewis did convert, but he converted to the Anglican Church instead of the Catholic Church, and that is what drove the two of them apart, because Tolkien was a devout Catholic.
Wow.
And it was, I find that to be mildly amusing. That, C.S. Lewis did convert, but he's the wrong flavor of Christian, so we can't be friends anymore. But anyhow, death. Hey, look, CHUCKMAS is about celebrating all the things that you love, death metal included, or the Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
Whatever makes you happy. So I was looking around for. By the way, this album slaps.
Oh, of course. There's no question about that.
Slaps. What do you want? Score. I was looking around. 82.5 is what it came out to. I think it deserves more than that because it's death.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song? I actually realized I didn't write anything down.
They're all great tracks on this.
Yes.
But I feel like it's bookended by its best songs. I feel like Overactive Imagination and The Philosopher. I feel like those are my favorite tracks on here.
I like The Philosopher. I really like Overactive Imagination as well. I remember really liking the title track quite a bit too.
That's also, of course, very excellent.
I cannot, the opening riff of Overactive Imagination is permanently stuck in my head because it is such a distinctive,
right.
It's the first thing you hear is that it's immediately, and like I can have it in whatever playlist and it comes up and I'm like, fuck yes, death. Because it's instantaneously like 100%. Oh, this is a death song.
Right.
There's no other band that this could be. This is death. But yeah, so maybe Overactive Imagination is my favorite song on the album, but there were other ones that I enjoyed for different reasons as well. This is one of the albums, like they had been progressively starting to introduce more progressive elements, starting with Human, but this is the album that started to embrace that a little bit more fully after Human, until eventually you get to not Symbolic, but the last one.
Oh, right,
Sound of Perseverance.
Yes.
is basically almost a straight up prog metal album, but with screamed vocals and that sort of thing.
Right.
So there's a lot to love on this album.
Mm-hmm.
It's death. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Get out of here. If you don't like death, if you like death metal and you don't like death, we can't be friends. I want to make that very clear.
If you like black metal and you don't like death, well, okay, that's probably I
don't want to be friends with you.
No. But
in another case, I may want to be friends with you, but that will drive us apart, like Tolkien and C.S. Lewis.
Right.
Disagreeing on the finer points of Christianity.
Yeah, my death metal is very Catholic.
Yes, but if you Catholic, yeah,
Catholic,
good old Catholics, the Catholic Church, the Catholic Pope,
yeah,
the Catholic Pope,
yeah,
but
who made the Pocket Fisherman? Yeah.
Yes,
Ron Pope.
But
yeah.
Oh, there's something that I said at work because I was reading about Chuck Schuldiner.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like people in the early 90s black metal community that really despise death metal in general and also really dislike Death as a band.
Right.
And there are some other things that we know about a lot of people in the early 90s Norwegian black metal community.
Sure.
And that they are, Nazis. And Chuck Schuldiner happens to come from a Jewish family. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Maybe. I mean, I've never heard it said outright, but
no. Fenriz has never said that he hates Jews, but to be fair to Fenriz, at the very least, he is one of the few figures from the early 90s Norwegian black metal scene that has more or less at no point revealed himself to be a total piece of shit.
Right.
Fenriz seems like he's a decent dude, so I don't want anybody to think that Fenriz is a massive asshole or anything like that. He just has very, very specific opinions about metal. But no, Faust, on the other hand,
Faust is different. Yes,
he's a different sort of dude. So.
Or the former bass player for a band called Mayhem. Yeah.
Yeah, what's he going by these days? Louis Cachet?
Louis Cachet.
I think that's his name, is Louis Cachet.
Louis Cachet of Notre Dame.
Yeah. What was Varg's? We're talking about Varg Vikernes.
Yes, of course.
What was his commute the morning that Notre Dame burned down? It was a 14-hour drive?
Something like that.
Because he lives in southern France. Through the French Alps, essentially.
It would have been 14-hour round trip. I mean,
round trip. That's right.
France isn't that big.
Well, he would have been driving through the mountains.
Sure. Well, true.
But yeah, it's the 3 minutes after the news broke that Notre Dame was on fire, there was a post on the Metal Memes subreddit that it was Varg.
Yeah.
Like seconds after the news broke.
That occurred to all of us.
People were like, hey, I wonder if it was Varg. Back at it again.
Somebody in Paris rented a Die Hard 2.
After a 25-year gap. He's fallen back on his old ways.
Yeah.
He couldn't, Euronymous wasn't around anymore, so It wasn't quite the same. Very pointedly, Euronymous was not around anymore.
Right. Because Varg killed him, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if when he started Notre Dame on fire, he's just like, I shouldn't have killed Oyston. It's not the same without him here.
Yeah. This was funner with him.
Yeah. Or whoever else he went around and did that with, because supposedly Euronymous was only there for like one or two, and then the rest of them, I think Faust went with for a couple of them. And
was Faust the guy that stabbed the dude to death?
Yeah, stabbed the gay guy to death in a park.
Right.
But anyhow, enough about black metal. That's next month.
Sure.
That's next.
Is that
month.
January? Oh yeah.
Black Metal January, because it's the darkest and coldest month of the year. So what metal are you bestowing? What metal are you bestowing upon individual thought patterns like Maz Kanata to Chewbacca?
It's a gold.
Yeah, it's a gold. Duh. What do you want?
Yeah.
It's CHUCKMAS. We're not going to give a death album a silver on CHUCKMAS.
I give it an also ran.
This it's okay, I guess. It's a little derivative, but you know.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah, this today is great. This in 1993 was fucking groundbreaking. Yeah, revolutionary.
Groundbreaking.
Hey, I've only had 1.5 beers.
Yeah. So next week, it's technically back to me.
Yeah.
Oh, God. What was I thinking about earlier this month that we were going? Oh, I remember now. It's Star Spawn by Blood Incantation.
Oh, yes.
We're going to listen to Blood Incantation's first full-length album. Star Spawn came out in 2016. It's cool stuff. Blood Incantation.
Didn't they have a new album?
Not this year.
Okay. Well, last year. Was it 2019?
Not last year, 2019.
You know what?
2 years ago, my friend.
Dude, last year was 2019.
I know. But yes, it was 2 years ago when it was an awesome month because we had new Blood Incantation and new Cattle Decap.
Right.
But yeah, we're going to talk about old Blood Incantation next week. So till you hear from us then, you can follow us on Twitter and on Facebook, and also subscribe to our feeds on either your Apple podcast app or on Libsyn's The Podcast Source.
We're there. Or on YouTube. We're on YouTube.
Yeah, we post episodes on YouTube if that's how you want it.
Yeah, I've actually done a search for these episodes on YouTube, and there are so many of them with an amazing 0 watches.
Yeah. Sounds surprising, but it's distribution.
Sure.
Whatever I can get us on without having to pay extra for, I'll go ahead and do it.
There we are.
But in any case, thanks for listening to a special CHUCKMAS episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.
Merry CHUCKMAS.
Merry CHUCKMAS to you. I'm going to move to the big city, and you all are going to see.
I'm going to make it. I'm going to be somebody.
Yeah. I'm really going to be someone.
And now you're a famous orator.
Yep. Is that what they're calling it these days?
What? People who speak. So if you speak, you're an orator.
Oh, I thought you were talking about my second job.
Giving $5 blowies is what you.
How dare you? They're $10.
All right.
On that note.